Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling in from today.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning, or yes, afternoon or evening.
Got a few folks still joining in, getting their audio all set up. Wonderful. Stephanie, good morning.
Good morning. That was weird. My video delayed for some reason.
I have to say, I really love your short haircut.
Thanks. My best 3-year-old self.
Yes.
Thanks.
Oh, we've got Kathy Washburn too. Hello.
Kathy, I love that profile picture that popped up.
Oh, that's my new branding.
I like it. I want wisdom from that woman.
Thank you.
Well, welcome everybody. It is about 2 after the hour, and I want to honor the time that we have. I'm sure there will be some people who continue to join, and we will let them in as they arrive. But welcome to another open house session in the Threshold Lab. I'm Emily Ray. I'm co-piloting David on this journey with the Threshold Lab. We've been working together for a couple of years, but really in a concentrated manner to get the lab off the ground in the last 6 months. And, so today we are going to spend some time just being together in this space and to kind of demonstrate how the lab, the live sessions in this community will work. For the month of June, all of these open house sessions are open and free. When you do join the lab, these will be happening every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Eastern. And you will have access to the asynchronous learning community on Circle, which is the platform that we'll use to gather in the online arena. I'll do a short share with the Circle platform towards the end of the session. For those of you who haven't been on one of these calls with us yet, you'll have a chance to see that, and there will be plenty of time also for questions and reflections as we close out our time together today. This is a 90-minute session, and we'll share a little bit on the front end, then go into breakout rooms, and then come back into this space together. I want to thank you all first for being here and joining us in the space with your curiosity. And particularly, I want to welcome Hilary Joel, who is my co-host for today. David is on retreat in the UK with a group of Moment Institute members. So Hilary so graciously has agreed to companion me on the call this morning, and to really show us and really demonstrate what it means to come together in this community, to be able to share not only reflections, but also the applications of what we do with Moment Institute programming, whether you are a narrative coach or more interested in the integrative development side of things. This lab space is designed to be an on-ramp into those programs or an off-ramp out of those programs, allowing us to have a continuity of time and experience and relationship together. So Hilary, I don't know if you want to hop on the mic real quick and say hi.
Yes, I'm very, very glad to be here and partnering with Emily. We went through the integrative development program together over a year ago, and we're in a mastermind group together. So it's great to now be sort of applying together or carrying forward things we learned together.
Mm. Thank you, Hilary. So I wanted to spend a minute or two at the front end as folks were coming in, just explaining a little about the day and the agenda. But I'd really love to hear from you and to start with a little check-in. What are you curious about today? What feels important about being here in the lab with us this morning?
I'm curious about meeting everyone in the community, as well as kicking off the lab and seeing how we can explore together.
Thank you, Kathy G, and welcome.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm sorry, Emily.
No, please go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, I'm very interested in learning a little bit about the elements and different activities that this community is aiming to set in motion and cultivate over time, and why you came up with these.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I became curious after listening to David's presentation at WBEX the other day, and just wanted to, so I jumped into the Moment Institute website just to explore and see what was there. So I'm really just here to see what is available and how to maybe become part of this community.
Thank you.
I'm curious about connection. I see a lot of disconnect in the world right now. And the NC community has always been about connection.
Thank you. I do see Ingrid in the chat added connecting and learning more from the narrative coaching community. And Yaron, is that how I pronounce your name? Yaron?
It's pronounced Yaron.
Yaron, see? Thank you. Thank you, Yaron. So just curious to get a feel for the space and how it might support what you're working to achieve, okay?
Hi, I'm Erin, and I also was listening to David at the summit and was very impressed with his presentation. I'm curious to know more about both the narrative coaching program as well as the integrative development program.
Wonderful.
I had the same experience as Molly and Erin of just, being blown away by David at WBEX and wanting to know more and seeing this as the way to find out, and just, letting go of all the old traditional ways of coaching and dealing with all the new world, and wanting to make a difference for my grandchildren as well. So excited to be here.
Thank you, Sigrid.
I'm wanting to, I'm actually very curious about how this comes together. I see so many familiar faces, and then people that are new to David and to the Moment Institute, just to see how that mix actually congeals and what happens in that space. So this is exciting to be here.
Thank you, Kathy W. It kind of leads into what Christopher put in the chat to see how the ID and the narrative coaching cohorts are mingling and cross-fertilizing in community. This is absolutely the space for that, where we get to come together and connect and share ideas and practice together.
I'd like to build on that. Having done narrative coaching and integrative development, as well as narrative release, I'm actually in the midst of practicing. And so it would be incredible to be able to share and get feedback and suggestions and learn collectively, and just to be with what is, you know, what's in the moment, where are we? I'm particularly interested in sitting with paradox, you know, the yes and instead of the either or. So I'm excited to have conversations.
So I think you're going to enjoy what Hilary has to share in just a bit, Stephanie. You want to jump in on that, Hilary?
Yeah, a lot of what's been said resonates with me. Building on what Sigrid said, and then what Stephanie said about one of my top takeaways from going through the integrative development. I didn't do the other programs, but everything is easier and better in community. So, and sometimes it's enough to just be present. So the idea of doing that here, and I will share a little bit more, but there's a lot of similarities between the principles of improv, which I'll define briefly, but it doesn't even matter if you don't know what that means, and integrative development, and the emphasis on presence and yes and just expansively making space for what comes up. You don't have to choose. I actually think that years of training and practice in more conventional coaching, we don't have to throw that out the window. That has valuable information, learning, wisdom, and then how do we yes and that not without having to carry too much forward. So ideas, yes anding my professional work for me.
I've seen a couple of notes in the chat about people who are going to need to hop off before the end, and questions around, will this session be recorded? Yes, in fact, there will be an archive and it will be emailed out to anybody who registered for this. I'm excited to share that we're working to make the recorded archives and the process for registering for these events a bit more streamlined, so that you'll have ways to easily engage and to follow up on these experiences. And if you miss something, to be able to access and feel like you can get caught up. So thank you
With
for
the
your
caveat-
questions.
Caveat that no breakouts outside of
Correct.
the main room will be recorded.
Correct. Okay. Anybody else have anything that feels important at the top of the call? Just reading the comments in the chat here. Is it Ulrike? Is that how I would pronounce that? Yes, Ulrike?
Yes, that's right. Hi, this is Ulrike from Germany. Yeah.
Okay, Ulrike, thank you. Just reading
Yeah, I
your
just
comment.
put the comment. Yeah.
That clients like to be taught tools, but do they really?
I think they're hiding, so hiding behind the results of whatever is put in place. And I doubt that. And yeah, thanks to Erin. Hi, Erin. You pulled me in again, something lovely. So obviously we just met some, well, weeks, I must say, or months before, and every now and then we share something. And this morning I got her email with this where I'm now sitting with you. So I actually just don't know where I am at the moment, just really curious. But I read very briefly through quite a lot of information on the web. And yeah, so I just sit and wait.
Thank you for your trust, yes, and for joining us here this morning. You've landed in the Threshold Lab. It is a new and somewhat experimental community, learning community that is being beta tested, piloted by the Moment Institute. So, you know, David believes that what we're involved here is the future of professional development, that it is the ability to come together in community and to self-organize around interest and applied learning, that of course there will always be a time and a place for certifications or content, but that there's so much juice and value in having each other as co-pilots and conversation partners, as someone to bounce an idea off, as someone, you know, to say, is anybody else seeing this? Is anybody else feeling this in their practice or with their clients? And so it's fun for me because the lab is something, yes, that we're testing as a community space, as a space that we all here get to come together to co-create. And so, you know, Christopher, you mentioned something a little bit earlier in the chat or in what you shared, just to, you know, see how folks are coming together to apply this work. And how we might share that application here in this community. Even these live sessions are collaborative and co-created. Since David isn't here this morning, and you know, David will not be joining, you know, every single lab session. Certainly there will be a lot where he will be present, but the idea is to have community members start to co-facilitate and to co-host these discussions. So since he was on retreat in the UK right now, it was a beautiful opportunity, you know, for me just to invite Hilary in so that we can learn a little bit more about the work that she's doing, where ID shows up in that. And then hopefully that can, you know, send us into some deeper discussions about where those things are showing up for us in our own lives or in our own practices. So Hilary, I would love if we could, you know, hear a little bit more about you, if you want to share some of your background or how you even found your way to the Moment Institute.
Yeah, I'll give a brief answer to that. So I came to this, was recommended by another executive coach. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, and she organizes pro bono coaching for startup social entrepreneurs. And I was participating in that pro bono coaching. And it was kind of an impulse decision made in less than a day. My background is, my first career was private sector management consulting and strategy work. But since 2004, I've been doing leadership and executive coaching and leadership development, mostly in the nonprofit sector. So I love helping the world's social heroes be more effective and not burn out and be more valuable to the organizations. And what drew me to this was, I don't know about others, but every few years, or there's an ebb and flow of when I feel like I need more growth. I need something fresh. And I was ready for something that would help me be a more effective coach, and new ways to manage tendencies I have as, you know, recovering management consultant, you know, and I found myself missing opportunities or believing that I could have deeper value for coaching clients, but I'm also tempted to bring my consulting and more advisory, you know, offerings to them. And so I didn't know what this would look like, but I was like, this sounds like a kind of good experience, a good package of ingredients that's gonna help me kind of slow down, listen more, and get wiser about helping a client discover what's already there with less of a sense of striving for answers that aren't already there. And I kind of found what I came for, I guess. And ID aligns a lot with things I know are important and that are a life's journey for me. A sense of play, a sense of letting go of my agenda, and being fully present to what's possible in the moment. So I'll stop there, Emily. I know you probably have some other questions, but that's
Yeah.
what brought me here. Yep.
Thank you, Hilary. One of the things that we're so hopeful about in the lab space is, the ability to activate something, whether it's an idea or a project or, just a new application of something that we learned in ID or narrative coaching. And so I'm wondering, did your experience in ID activate anything in you personally or professionally?
Yes. And I think high on the list is self-trust, greater self-trust. And I use that word very specifically. To me, it's not the same as confidence. It's not a bravado. It's just like a fundamental essential that if I'm not trusting myself enough, or as much as possible, then it's hard to trust the process with a client or the process in a learning community or the process when I facilitate board retreats. So the ID experience and the sessions we went through in the program I did do offered all kinds of ways to step into self-trust. And I always believe there's more than one right way to do, or one workable way to do things. So I like all the entry points it offered. And then with a higher level of self-trust, I can trust the moment. I can let go of the past, let go of worrying about the future. So that is one essential. And then the other one I said about everything's easier and better in community. So finding new ways to be in community and not burden myself with being so self-reliant and how I add value to a situation or my role in a relationship. I'm curious, actually, if a few other folks just want to say, if you've gone through any of the programs, just a quick one thing that was activated for you or enhanced for you, if a couple folks want to share. Top of your list.
So maybe I can reply to that. So I'm currently enrolled in David's ID program. And one of the things that I keep returning is basically what we discussed in the very beginning of this program. And that is the whole idea of unburdening yourself and emptying the bag. And this David White poems comes to mind where somebody's reaching the Finisterre along the Camino, and where it says about it's time to unburden yourself, take out everything in the bag and leave the shoes behind that brought you to this place. And that's basically very much how it feels for me, that it is the beginning of a new journey. And for me, it starts by recognizing what brought me to this place and what I can leave behind in order to make space for something entirely new to enter. So the whole idea of unlearning is equally important for me than the notion of learning. And that's where a lot of my inner work is circled around.
Other reflections?
So I can share. I think of it in a yes and to Christopher. So I have many, many years. I'm an engineer by training, but I did corporate strategy for forever. And what I like to say is I left I'm no longer, excuse this if this is offensive to anyone, I'm no longer a corporate puke. But what I am is able to take the things that made corporate strategy fun and embrace those and enhance that with this notion of letting go. And so what it does is, the way I think of it is, I've metabolized all of the learnings that I've done throughout my life as a mother, as a daughter, as a corporate executive. And now I can show up with authenticity and integrity and not have to think. It's just about being. And the magic that happens in witnessing others and having compassion for what they're experiencing. The Moment Institute's philosophy of just be in the field, be a witness to your clients, allows you to take all that you've learned and just let it, I call it a secret sauce. Each of us has our own secret sauce. And by being in community, what you find is your sauce marinates. You pull in those little bits of goodness that you've learned from others, and maybe you cook off a flavor that isn't really suiting you well. So it's this really incredible melding of who you are, how you are in community, and how you sit with your clients. That's probably, for me, it's that noticing that you don't need to overthink. You can just be. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Well,
Go ahead.
thanks, Hilary. Building on that, one of the things I'm really drawn to in David's work is, and I felt it here today, is metaphors. I really love that kind of metaphor of, leaving the shoe behind or marinating in a space. I'm really drawn to that. And I haven't done the NA formally, or the, what's the other one? ID or something? Integrative development or something. I haven't done the formal programs. I did attend a coaching conference in Sydney in 2019 where I met David for the first time, and he was pretty bold, frankly. It was an evidence-based coaching conference at the University of Sydney, and he kind of like came in and did his sort of shaman thing, and it was awesome, and he used 3 chairs as metaphors for your like past coach, self, your present coach, and your future coach self. So yeah, and so anyway, long story short, I ran into David again on Friday, or maybe the previous Friday, at NYU. I'm in the New York City based area, so he kind of we had a moment, and he invited me to this space and thought it might be a good space for me as I'm thinking about metaphors and other visual type of coaching methods. So pleasure to be with you all.
Thank you.
If I could perhaps add, David often talks about the quality of serious play, and I wondered how that serious play is going to play out in this new community lab, and what you have in mind for that.
Well, thank you for a wonderful bridge to, just asking Hilary. We're kind of on the subject of self-trust a little bit. You brought that up as a key learning or an activation in you. And I know that one of the areas where this shows up for you a lot, Hilary, is in the work you do in improv. And so would you share more about how you are engaging in improv practices and games, and how that informs and inspires some of your coaching?
I would love to. It's a favorite topic. I'll start by addressing what Christopher said. Is I know David talks about serious play. My translation of that is purposeful play. I mean, yes, and I mean, and there are many concepts that he talks about behind the value of a playful sense and experience in a coaching conversation or other meaningful gathering. So winding back a little bit, starting about 6 years ago, at another point when I wanted to stretch myself in a new way and I didn't want to do a marathon, I didn't want that kind of stretch. My son was starting to take improv in college. Our family has always loved games and play. And I wanted to find a new place to boldly put myself out there in new ways where the stakes are actually very low, but everyone says, oh, you have to be so brave. And I knew the principles of improv really appealed to me. I knew they could only enrich my coaching and facilitation work, where you really have to let go of your own agenda. You have to be so present and make space for others. So quick definition of improv. You may be familiar with comedic improv if you've watched Whose Line Is It Anyway? That's one kind of improv, a TV show in UK and US. It's not sketch comedy. It's not stand-up comedy. What improv is there is no preparation. You have no idea until the moment you open your mouth what you're going to say on a Zoom screen, on a stage, in a class with someone. So there's a lot of trust in each other, in the space and the person. And that's why I do it. Since the pandemic started, I've been doing Zoom improv practice with 2 teams. One of them includes my son twice a week. Literally, it's one of the things that helped me keep my sanity. Before that, for a few years, I was practicing in person every week and sometimes performing in this enormous underground world of amateur improv and nooks and cranny stages in DC and Chicago. I just performed in Chicago with my son. I'm still an amateur, but I just love what it brings to me. So I'm going to just put out there a few of the parallels. I also love analogies between improv and coaching and integrative development work and David's work. So what improv actually demands you focus on that you collaborate and be present. There is no past. There's no future. There's no goal. There's no right or wrong answers. There's only the present and the people in the space with you. So it completely invites trust in the group, the self, and others, and playfulness. We're doing it for the sense of joy and collaborating in completely unpredictable ways, and that boldness, that childlike boldness of trying something before you know how to do it, or proceeding without knowing what the path looks like. That's what you do in this no stakes improv space if you're in a class or a coaching session. And I joined the board of Washington Improv Theater, and they offer they call it WIT at Work, WIT @ work. They'll come to any kind of organization, nonprofit, corporate, and it's a really powerful kind of team session to do. A couple other things that sort of parallel ID work, like there's no right and wrong. It's a whole lot of yes and it doesn't mean take all your baggage with you or that you're agreeing fully with everybody, but you don't have to challenge or counter or resist. In an improv scene, even if it's just practice, you treat the people you're with as if they're, geniuses or best friends or, just heroes. Like you assume there is something I'm going to learn and get from them. And that's something we want to do as coaches. So you're really hyper tuned in to what others are bringing to the space. And it's not just inclusive because that's the right thing to do, but it values like, what do I not know that you're going to add now? And then I'm going to yes and that. So what I get to do in these improv places, other than laugh a lot, because I'm not naturally a performer, I'm not a stand-up comic, there's no script, but I get to practice things and use these muscles that I can bring into professional work or other spheres of my life. Like, I can be a better parent, probably, I hope, with this lightness that I bring to it. Yeah, so that's what I love about improv, and it really parallels, just slashing the word serious, a lot of what David's or the ID philosophy supports. And I like to think of that idea. We all have our own secret sauce. I love that idea of like a lot of things I've already internalized. I don't have to negate them, but they're just there without thinking about it. Like the way you said that, Stephanie. So this is not David's way of being, it's me carrying forward my interpretation, and it keeps evolving.
Can I just add to that, Hilary? That was a wonderful rendition. I'm a performer by profession, and doing improv is what we do before you do a major play, even a film. What it does is it's an even playing field for each character. That's the one thing. Everyone starts at the same place, and you don't know which one is coming. So that's where that presence base, coaching comes in. You don't know exactly which thing is going to work. So you maybe try this and maybe try that. This might work, this might not work. This works beautifully, and let's see where it goes. That's what I was so attracted about narrative coaching, because it was, and I remember this so clearly. I was in my kitchen and I had my laptop on, and all of a sudden he was talking about serious play and presence-based coaching and these things that are natural to improv. And when I turned around and I said, this is it. This is where I need to be, because it's a natural thing. It might feel uncomfortable, but that trust of just everyone is on the same place. Everyone's in the same place. And that's what I love about improv. No one's here, no one's up there, it's just it's like they're all moving parts, but we're all moving together.
Beautifully said. And people say, oh, you must be so brave to do that. It's actually liberating. I mean, I'm not doing it in front of 1,000 people, but it's liberating to say, I can just trust the process and not be burdened, and know that wherever we go, we'll find the next move together. Yeah.
There are no mistakes.
No mistakes. Oh, what have I noticed with my clients using these approaches? So I think of it as they're not all aware of it. So I am going to, in a breakout, do some exercises with you that are more sort of with a facilitator hat on. And I've used them to bring team groups together a little bit. But in one-on-one coaching, I use improv more internally it's the work on me. It's what I'm metabolizing to be a better coach for them. So I think I'm more trusting and patient, which helps them discover more deeply what they can bring and own from a coaching session. And this is a learning edge for me, because I have some young rising nonprofit leaders, like the next generation leaders, who like, Hilary, you have all this experience and they want advice from me. What should I do? What should I do? And frankly, they really want it. And sometimes they need it in a time sensitive way. And I yes and that. I'll give them that too, but I try not to let that crowd out the opportunity to say, well, how did you work through something like this the last time? You're the expert on your organization. You're the expert on your sector. So I try to do both. And I think I'm doing more of that than I used to in a way that serves them. But they don't always know that it's inspired by improv principles for me.
Hilary, you talked a little bit about what you might offer in the breakout room. If you want to go ahead and tease that for us, we're going to have the ability to choose which breakout room that you go to. There'll be 3 that are possibilities for the space today. Hilary is going to lead one, which she'll talk about here in just a second. And that will be around improv. And the second one will be more around this theme of self-trust in practice, where we're seeing it in ourselves, where we're called to use it with our clients. And then the third one is just, you won't actually go into a room, you'll stay in this room with me. But for anybody who's new to the Moment Institute or new to hearing about the Threshold Lab and just want a little bit more of an orientation to the space, want to talk about maybe some possibilities, ideas for ways to connect, practice what you're working on, incubate ideas. Those are the types of things that we're building here. So if you want to hang out in the main room with me, that will be the focus of our time there. So Hilary, what might you look forward to if we jumped into the improv room with you?
Right. And I just want to qualify, I think the other room, the self-trust room, is going to self-organize and self-facilitate with your, whatever you say when you send them there. So in our group, in my breakout, I'm going to invite folks to try 2 to 3, depending on the time, short improv exercises. They're things you would do with a group. So this may appeal to people who sometimes facilitate sessions or do team coaching or team building or helping teams recover from Zoom fatigue or COVID fatigue or trust building. It's not an exercise you would probably do in a coaching session. I just want to make sure that's clear. It's not a coaching move necessarily, but it's experiencing how the principles of improv create some of these attributes we know are important, like self-trust and radical presence and total collaboration with a yes and attitude. So there'll be short games. You don't need to be clever or anything. They're quick and easy.
Yes, and I might also ask for the self-trust and practice if Kathy G or Kathy W, maybe one of you volunteer to just be a steward in that space to help with the conversation. So our breakout rooms, I'm going to open up the rooms here. We are utilizing the Zoom choose your own breakout room feature. So again, I'm going to open them. You should see that you have access to improv with Hilary or self-trust and practice, and you can choose where you'd like to break out to. And if you wanted to stay in the main room with me, we'll talk a little bit more about the Moment Institute and the labs. So feel free to join whichever group sounds like your cup of tea today. Welcome back from the breakouts, everybody. Great to spend some dedicated time with folks in the group who wanted to learn more about the lab. Hilary, how did it go in your room?
Sorry, I was just sharing my email address. We had a lot of fun. We only had 3 people, and 2 had to drop off before we came back, and Ingrid does now too. So I'm representing, she had to leave early. So I'm representing the 3 of them, but I'll just say they saw the connections and experienced what the games were intended to experience, like just radical presence and a degree of trust and like readiness to absorb versus readiness to respond or do or know. And we plan to like kind of get together again. So maybe it will be eventually in a Threshold Lab little space.
Well, Hilary, I was a little bit heartbroken that I couldn't join for your games today. So I do hope that it becomes a feature. Other reflections from the breakout rooms?
It was just amazing, the maze we went through with the self-trust and very rich discussions from Stephanie, Carol, and Phil, and Kathy W for a while, and myself. And we had some great examples. I loved the question, how can I not be enough? I am unique and I am enough, and I am ready to let go. And Phil was very fascinating with the openness and the pivot from being anxious and into letting go and being open. And so that resonated with all of us as well. So it was very, very fascinating as usual, ID, conversation and community.
Any other reflections? Right. Well, I would be happy to share with you a little tour before we wrap the call today, just to show you what the lab looks like on Circle, which is the digital platform where we gather and organize and are able to network and really get into deeper conversations with each other. So if you'll permit me to share my screen really quick. Okay, and I'm going to hit share. Okay, so this is the Threshold Lab on the Circle platform. You'll notice that it looks somewhat similar to a private Facebook group. Here where you see the Threshold Lab, this is where we are organizing the current group in the pilot program. As I mentioned before, David said that the programs for 2023 will likely be moved into this space. That is what this pilot is designed to tell us, is does this platform have the robustness and the community features and the ease of use that we want and need it to have for this to be a wonderful, thriving community. And I can say that from my initial tests and from the early adopters and committed folks who have joined in, that it seems like it can be a really wonderful home for us and for this community. Every time I look at a feature or say, can it do this thing? The answer is yes, it can. So that's exciting as we continue to co-create this into, what it best suits the needs of this community. So just going to pop through here. You've got kind of a home area, and this is going to just be all of the posts showing up, either latest or most popular, similar to how you would see in your Facebook feed. Then we've got some ways to categorize and to organize activity or discussion. So just a simple discussion thread, so you can see as folks are coming into the lab, answering questions, interacting with each other. One thing that you'll notice too is, if I'm going to go back here, one of the areas that we're having some experimentation and fun with is around being able to tag our member profiles so that you can see if someone is into narrative coaching or integrative development or has interests in learning more in those areas. All of your members, if you were to click on somebody's profile, you would see a little bit more about them, places that you can connect, and a little bit of their background. So if you were searching for someone else working in education or in the nonprofit space, you would have the ability to hone in and to connect directly with those people. The live sessions is where it's our calendar of events. And you can see here, these are the ones that we have remaining in June, but all of the sessions for now until the end of the pilot are already listed up here. So, when you are a member, let's just say it's a Monday and you haven't RSVP'd or registered for an event, that's okay. You don't have to. You just come here, you click on the event, and then you have the ability to go directly to the Zoom link. It's a recurring Zoom link that we'll be using here in the lab. That allows ease of access and ease of jumping in. So no scrambling to your email to find where you're supposed to be, where the AM link is, where the PM link is. There's just one place to go, and you'll know that you will land in this space with your colleagues in the community. What's also great about this space is our ability to share resources. So we talked a little bit about the recordings and where is that stuff going to go? Well, we are organizing that into playlists so that you could see what's happening in the lab. If David does any bonus sessions, he recently did a debrief from his WBEX talk. And so we share all of that back into this area too, so it can be an ongoing resource. If you missed a session or you wanted to hear a community member speak but couldn't join live, that stuff will be available here. We're envisioning a bulletin board space where you can ask for what you need from the community or offer something. So if you are working on an exercise or a program and you wanted to develop a small focus group, you could put that request here. If you had something you wanted to offer, let's just say that you don't have a project of your own that you're working on, but you want to say, I'd be happy to jump in and offer a set of eyes or be a participant, volunteer to participate in an exercise or a program. All of that stuff can happen here in this space. And then the one that I'm most excited about is this idea around case stories. And one of the really fun potential benefits of the lab is using it as an incubator to say, how am I using this work in my own practice with my clients or in the industries that I work in? And so having a space to talk about the projects specifically and to do a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of documentation, that you could then package and promote in a way that you could show an organization, this is what this looks like. This is how this unfolds. This is what I did with this company or with this group. And it gives us more of a framework and language and ideas and possibilities for advanced application from the things that we are inspired by or are learning here in this community. So this is it. I will drop a link in our chat area just so that you can get back to it if you would like to check it out. Just give me one moment and I'll pull that right up.
Emily, will there be a link to that Circle platform or the lab platform from themomentinstitute.com, like the older existing homepage? Absolutely.
So let me just really quickly here show you. There already is, and we're working on two ways to get back to the lab. One is if you went to Circle, I'm not sharing the right screen. Can you see where it says the Threshold Lab?
Yep.
Okay. One of the ways that you could get back to the lab where you would sign in is just to go to the Circle website, put in your login, it would take you to the community that you're involved in. Alternatively, we are hooking up a domain, so the Threshold Lab domain, so thethresholdlab.com. It's not connected yet, but it will be connected to that community. And then if you can see here in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, this little chat applet, if you click on that from the Moment Institute website, you see it takes me directly into the lab.
That's from the homepage of the Moment Institute?
It's on the Threshold Lab page.
Okay, got it.
So it takes me right here into the lab. It's a little iframe picture-in-picture type functionality, but that would be a way that you could access it there. Thank you for that question, Hilary. Any other questions?
Curious about the park benches as well as the, I guess, pivotal moments, but the park benches in particular. Is there something like that that's being incorporated into the lab, or is that just going away?
It is not going away. It is being incorporated into the lab. Each of the pivotal moments and the park benches really have their own identity and unique opportunity and invitation for that time. And we want to honor that and to continue that in a way that feels right. And so the folks who host those individual sessions are in conversation with David about what that looks like, how we absorb those into this lab space, but still continue to offer them for free, to the larger community. I would imagine, and as we said before, this lab is experimental and being co-created. You know, after each session, after each question, after each new member joins, it's growing and changing in beautiful ways. But you know, the hosts of those sessions were invited to think about, you know, what that looks like, how they want to utilize the time and the space. Is it something that they want to do more often than just once a month? Do they have the bandwidth or the, you know, the desire to do that? And so we imagine the Threshold Lab in some ways as this this doorway, threshold, but this doorway that you can pass through and enter into what looks like a lobby. And in that lobby, this is where we get to say hello and that we get to mingle and that we get to have casual conversations. And it's when we get to go into the breakout rooms that we go deeper into the areas or, you know, the places that interest us most. So the working idea for how this will happen with pivotal moments and with park benches is that they will be a breakout room within the Threshold Lab. So you come into the larger space, you get to say hello to the larger community, get a feel for the conversation, the topics, the fellowship that happens, you know, just as we are invited to reflect and check in, and then from there, you would go into the room for the session or for the conversation that you feel most suits your need.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
explanation.
I should know this, Emily, but will we get emails prompting us to more formally subscribe? Because like there's this initial kind of open house period. And
yes, so if you were on the call today, you will, you know, get followed up with an email that says, here's the archive to the recording, if you want to review any of these things in particular. But also there'll be more information if you're ready to become a member. And to become a member would be when you initiate your subscription. So the lab is $97 a month. And for that $97, you get a session once a week. So there's 90-minute sessions that happen at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. But then you also get access to the digital platform on Circle. And the membership exists in a subscription that's similar to how Netflix works, is that you get charged once a month and you can cancel it at any time that you want or need to. There is a 14-day free trial period with the lab. So if you were to sign up, that you have 14 days to get in, kick the tires, and to see if it is a space that you know, will serve what you're looking for in terms of community and a place to dig deeper with the work. So Hilary, on the Threshold Lab webpage on the Moment Institute, there's a place that says become a member. That would take you into your free trial. You would sign up, or there will be a follow-up email that comes from today's registrants or attendees. There'll also be the ability to join from a link that's shared there. Any other questions?
thank you, Emily,
Oh, thank all of you.
for
This is-
co-creating all this with David.
Well,
Mhm.
this is what I say to my students when I'm shocked that they show up on my, you know, my Zoom calls with my university lecture. I said, this doesn't work if you don't show up. You know, if there's nobody here to be in conversation with, it's not a conversation. So greatly appreciative of everything that you all brought into the space today with your reflections and your questions. We are hosting another open house for the lab next week. So if you want to come back, there's different people here every week. And that's, I think, one of the beautiful things about the lab is that you never know who's going to pop in on the day that you do, and the chance to make a new and valuable, meaningful connection.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Good job, Emily.
Right.
Thank you, Hilary.
Great to work with all of you.
Thank you.
Play
Yeah.
with all of
everybody.
you.
Everyone.